Jalalabad, eastern Afghanistan. An Afghan policeman shot in the stomach in an ambush by Taliban insurgents. An Afghan civilian with his legs shredded by a landmine. And 2 soldiers seriously injured by an IED explosion.
1, 2, 3.
These are just some of the injuries Flight Medic Sergeant Emmett Spractis has to deal with on a daily basis.
Strong central pulse, eyes are reactive at 3 milliliters breath.
Insurgent attacks in Afghanistan are now at their highest level since the fall of the Taliban in 2001. During 1 week alone in June, there were 400 attacks against coalition forces and Afghan infrastructure.
Okay.
I'd say probably 3 flavors that we're seeing. So you have your penetrating injuries like your gunshot wounds, you have your multi-trauma, your IED blasts, landmine strikes, and then because of the mountainous terrain that we've got out here, we've had a fair number of falls, and some of them with pretty nasty injuries.
No, get his hand.
Flight Medic Sergeant Spractis and the flight crews of this air ambulance unit from California and Wyoming are used to putting their lives on the line to save others. For 1 year, this National Guard unit has been flying evacuation missions out of Jalalabad into some of the most dangerous combat zones of the Hindu Kush Mountains. With a tradition going back to Vietnam, where the term dust-off was first established, these Medivac air ambulances attached to the 101st Airborne Division represent the last line of defense between life and death. Whenever they are dispatched, the race starts against that golden hour, that crucial period after which a patient's chances of survival rapidly diminish. We followed Sergeant Spractis on one of his calls.
As we were coming in, we were having to circle the area because we had aircraft overhead firing into some locations. We were not immediately aware of the exact landing zone, so we were kind of in a holding pattern. And as far as we knew, there were still troops in contact, which means they were taking enemy fire. And when we stepped out, they do what you call a 5 and 25. You check your immediate area so you're not stepping on an IED or any other type of any device. The patient had received a significant wound from a RPG, rocket-propelled grenade blast, taking off a lot of the flesh of his upper arm. He had a lot of blood all over him. We had a very short flight. He was still bleeding, and I had to put a second tourniquet on him and try to get a rapid set of vitals, heart rate, respiration, pulse oximetry, as much as I could get in maybe a 6 or 7 minute flight.
If someone gets shot, you look at what are the preventable causes of death. So bleeding from an extremity wound is a really good example where you have your combat lifesaver on the ground, not even a medic per se, just an infantry soldier who's had basic first aid combat lifesaver training, putting a tourniquet on that arm. That's the first and probably the most important step in saving lives. At the medevac, we have trained flight medics, and often the flight surgeon goes also. They'll continue to stabilize the patient, provide potentially life-saving interventions to get them to the nearest surgical team. Each point along that way, there's an intervention that can be done that's going to make a difference.
I didn't get to see the operation. We were trying to reset the aircraft. The surgeons showed me a picture of it, and they believe he's probably going to lose that arm. It was a significant amount of tissue loss there. They sedated him, paralyzed him. From that point, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, we flew him from Asadabad to Jalalabad here for what they call a tail-to-tail, because he's going to go to Bagram for more surgery.
The provision of medical services to Afghan army soldiers as well as civilians is seen as a vital part of the general strategy to win the hearts and minds of the Afghan population. But there was no respite. The next 9-line call came, this time the patient a US soldier with a serious back injury. Mostly flying with little information, air ambulance crews frequently don't know what to expect as they approach the point of injury.
Stop 2-4, this is Able 1-6. Right now we're 3 vehicles on the road at approximately X-ray Delta 093192. Would like you to land on the road if possible. We've blocked off a section with 2 Humvees. It's about 100 meters long where there's no traffic. Should be able to get the helicopter in there. Recommend land direction at 270. It'll put you into the wind and be most conducive for patient pickup. Over. Sounds good to me.
There are times when I see my guys go out and I wonder, is that going to be the last time I see them? Sometimes I go out and I think, is this the last time anyone is going to see me? Sometimes you go out and you know it's a hoist mission and there are bad guys running around out there, and you wonder what will they say to my children? You know, are they going to get that knock on the door? It does weigh heavy on you sometimes. But what you do is you focus and you do your job and you talk to your friends.
There are people out there who want to kill us, and they want to kill my people, my countrymen. I feel I have a personal responsibility. I don't know why I'm getting worked up about it. Anyway, I have a personal responsibility and obligation to the guy on the ground. The guy that's there risking his life every day to protect my family back home. And I'm gonna do what I can do to pull him out. And if someone's standing in the way of his safety, like I said, it's a bad day for them.
It was a bad day also for 5 US soldiers and 1 civilian whose unarmored vehicle hit an improvised explosive device in the Tagab Valley north of Bagram on our last day with the unit. One after the other, the soldiers are taken to hospital with horrific injuries, the walking wounded with their arms draped around their comrades, clothes in tatters. The staff at the Heathcrake Joint Theatre Hospital at Bagram Airfield deal with the sudden arrivals with professionalism and calm. We start to understand why some of the dust-off crews are at their limit.
A lot of people ask me, how do you do this job? How do you deal with people dying and hurt people every day? And for me, it's a matter of focus. I don't focus on the person in pain. I try to focus on the fact that we're doing something good for them, that we're giving them the best care that's available. And if it weren't for us being there doing that, then they wouldn't receive anything at all.
Where'd you get hit the worst? Is it your head back here?
This display of activity for just 6 injured personnel poses the question, could services quickly be stretched to the limit by a sudden influx of mass casualties? We asked Dust-Off pilot Jason Penrod if he expected an increase in violence and the number of call-outs in the run-up to the elections.
You would definitely expect that. I mean, anything major, any major event that these guys can use as an opportunity to gain popularity or gain a foothold again back here in the country, they're going to take advantage of it.
There is no doubt that the recent surge in US troops has put some pressure on Taliban insurgents. What remains to be seen is whether ISAF coalition forces will be able to win over the hearts and minds of the Afghan population. Until that happens, dust-off crews are likely to remain busy in their race between life and death. This is Patrick Barth reporting for the New York Times in Jalalabad, Afghanistan.